Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the early slate and the main slate on DraftKings for Wednesday, May 16th. We do have a 9-game early slate today and a 5-game main slate. I'm going to talk about both slates. Already got my 5 plays plugged in for each slate. We'll talk about my 5 plays, why I chose these guys. We'll kind of run down the slate, just talk about pitchers, talk about some hitters we want to go to, and some stacks we want to go to. Before we do get started though, guys, make sure you drop a like on the video. I definitely appreciate it. Lets me know that you enjoy the vids. And if you have not subscribed yet, be sure you do subscribe down below, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new uploads. But yeah, pitching on this early slate, this 9-game early slate, I went with J.A. Happ and Jamison Taillon as my 2 pitchers. You do have some studs you can consider. 2 guys over 10K on this early slate, Trevor Bauer and Milos Mikolas. But I'm not in love with these matchups. I think this is a good matchup for Bauer, but he is 12,800. I just don't really know if I want to pay that price tag for Bauer. And then Mikolas against the Twins, I think might have some risk there, and Mikolas is pretty expensive at 11K. So that's why I like J.A. Happ here. He gets a really good matchup with the Mets. He gets some good savings as well. If you go down to J.A. Happ, he's only 9,300. Good ballpark to pitch in the Mets Stadium. Go into the National League, be able to face the opposing pitcher in the lineup, which pretty much adds a free strikeout. You do have strikeouts in this lineup, especially with guys like Jay Bruce versus a lefty will strike out. Mesoraco will strike out. The pitcher, obviously, Rosario will strike out. Even Cespedes will K. Lagares will K. The Mets are definitely a much worse team versus lefties than they are righties. So I do really like this spot for J. Happ. I like his price tag at 9,300. I think he makes a lot of sense as an SP1 today. And then Jamison Taillon is my SP2. I just think this is such a good matchup with the White Sox. Taillon's going to be pitching at home in Pittsburgh. Great ballpark for pitchers. Also going to the National League, he'll be able to face the opposing pitcher. The White Sox are going to lose their DH. Mentioned this yesterday with Trevor Williams, who had a solid game. Just losing that DH, adding the pitcher to the lineup definitely helps out. And I just really like Taillon here. I think he has a lot of upside versus this White Sox team that does strike out a lot. I think Taillon a really good option at SP2 for just 7,600. It looks like he is going to be coming back from an injury, a finger injury, but I don't think there's any sort of like pitch limit. I think he's ready to go here. I think he does pitch well and definitely pays off this price of 7,600. So I like Taillon as my SP2. You pair him and Happ, I think that leaves you about 4K remaining per player. Definitely can pay up for bats if you go with Happ and Taillon. If we look at the other pitchers on this slate, besides Happ and Taillon, obviously I mentioned Bauer and Mikolas, but then looking at the cheaper options, the SP2s, a lot of guys I see definitely could be playable, maybe like Zach Wheeler against the Blue Jays, or Matt Cook, who's been decent this year, gets a strikeout-friendly matchup with the Brewers. But not a lot of guys I'm just absolutely in love with. Lance Lynn, revenge game for what that's worth, but I don't really want to play Lance Lynn here. Just pitcher in general on this 9-game slate isn't very attractive. That's why I kind of like J. Happ and Taillon. Both guys get good matchups. And I think both guys are able to return value. Really, definitely my 2 favorite pitchers on this early slate. And then looking at bats for today, I really like the Phillies here versus the Orioles. The Orioles, it looks like they're going to be letting Miguel Castro make a spot start here. It was supposed to be Tillman that was going to start this game, but Tillman's on the DL, so Miguel Castro going to make a spot start. I would imagine he's going to pitch probably a couple of innings, and then it's going to be sort of a bullpen game for the Orioles. Their bullpen is not very good, so I like the Phillies here. I think both sides of this game is in play. This is definitely a game I'm really stacking up with hitters. I like the Phillies. I think the Orioles are in play. But definitely the Phillies here because of the value you have from this lineup. Obviously, like Cesar Hernandez as a value play at 4K versus Castro. Castro is just not a good pitcher, not a guy I really believe in. Cesar is only 4K, batting from his left side. Definitely has power from his left, has speed as well. The guy has upside. If he gets on base, he'll steal bases. A great ballpark for hitters as well in Camden Yards. One thing to note, though, I'm recording this about 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday night. I believe this Philly-Baltimore game Tuesday night hasn't started yet. I'm not sure. That game might get postponed. They might play a doubleheader today, which could mess some things up. But as of now, as long as they play that game tonight, this should still be the matchup for tomorrow. Castro versus Velasquez at 12:35. But definitely things could change if that game gets postponed. They decide to play a doubleheader. But anyways, like Hernandez here, love Rhys Hoskins as well. Just a dude that has a ton of power, has power versus righties. And Miguel Castro will give up some home runs. Good home run, friendly park in Baltimore, Camden Yards, like I mentioned. Great ballpark for hitters. Love the Phillies today, loading up on them on this early slate. Rhys Hoskins, Cesar Hernandez, two guys I think make a lot of sense. Then my final play is Brandon Belt. I think the Giants are also in a really good spot here. You don't love the ballpark in San Francisco, AT&T. I would say the best pitcher's park, one of the most pitcher-friendly parks. But Matt Harvey's on the opposing mound for the Reds, and I don't think Matt Harvey is a very good pitcher. The Giants are still getting some good respect from Vegas here. They have a 4.7 implied run total for today, which is pretty high considering they're in AT&T. Usually don't see high run totals in AT&T. Looks like the wind's going to be blowing out to center 10 miles per hour, which really just adds to it. I think the Giants are in definitely a good spot here. I want the power bats from the Giants, like Brandon Belt. I think McCutchen's in play. Crawford could be a cheap shortstop you go to at 33 or 3,300. Some good value from this team. Matt Harvey, like I said, is just not a good pitcher. I don't think he's really going to pitch well the rest of the year. So love the power bats from San Francisco. Brandon Belt, a dude that has crushed righties, has a ton of power, and I just think makes a lot of sense on this slate. So these are my 5 plays for the early slate. 5 guys that I like: J.A. Happ, Jameson Taillon, Brandon Belt, Cesar Hernandez, and Rhys Hoskins. Quickly going over stacks and BVP plays on this slate. Stacks for me, it's this Baltimore-Philly game, just loading up on both sides of this game. I think the lefties, the righties from Philly are in play. Lefties versus Vince Velasquez, I feel like you could go to as well. Velasquez is pretty good versus righties, but some of these lefties, especially a guy like Chris Davis that has power, could definitely be a play. That implied run total really high, 5.7 runs for the Orioles, definitely high there. But yeah, besides that game, I do like the Giants as well, a team you can stack up versus Matt Harvey. I think they make a lot of sense on this early slate. But now if we want to look at BVP plays for the early slate, don't think there are that many. Just looking at pitchers who are pitching on this early slate. Lance Lynn I saw was pitching. Jason Hammel's pitching. Bartolo Colon is pitching, I believe. Max Scherzer, that's where it cuts off. So 3 BVP plays with at least a 10 at-bat sample on the early slate. Dexter Fowler, 5 for 14 with a home run versus Lance Lynn. Wilson Ramos, 4 for 12 with 2 home runs versus Jason Hammel. And D. Gordon, 14 for 35 with a home run versus Bartolo Colon. I don't mind the Mariners here as a stack. Didn't mention them versus Bartolo Colon. I don't think, we don't have any Vegas information on this game. This game is offline. With the Mariners losing Cano, that does kind of hurt their lineup. But you still could definitely target this team, especially with D. Gordon, who's got the BVP. Cruz, who still has power even versus righties. Kyle Seager, I believe he's got some bad BVP versus Cologne, but you could go to Kyle Seager at 3,900. I do like the Mariners as a stack. But then pitchers on the early slate that have done well. J.A. Happ has done well against the Mets. I like to see that. The Mets have only hit Happ for a 186 average through 86 at-bats. Jason Hammel done well against the Rays. The Rays have only hit him for a 210 average and 81 at-bats. Bartolo Colon finally done well against the Mariners. The Mariners have only hit Colon for a 228 average through 123 at-bats. That's it for PVB and BVP on the early slate. Now looking at the main slate, 5 games tonight. Definitely got some stud pitching on this 5-game main slate. Justin Verlander, Chris Sale, and Max Scherzer are all pitching tonight, so arguably 3 of the best pitchers in the league going tonight on this 5-game slate. I do like all 3. I like their matchups, especially Scherzer and Chris Sale. Justin Verlander at 12K, with him being sandwiched between Scherzer and Sale, I don't think I'm going to Verlander today. But Scherzer gets to face the Yankees. This is definitely a dangerous matchup, but a matchup where Scherzer can rack up a ton of strikeouts. This Yankees team does have strikeouts in their lineup from top to bottom. If we just look at their projected lineup, Aaron Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, Torres, Andujar, obviously going to the National League, they'll put the pitcher in the lineup, so CC Sabathia going to strike out a ton versus Scherzer. Scherzer might be a little risky here, but this dude's just been so good this year. I don't think he has his worst game this year was 16 DraftKings points versus the Braves. You take that game out, he's got 28, 29, 27, 37, 37, 36, 48, 33 DraftKings points. Just been so good. You look at the strikeouts, 11, 15, 8, 10, 9, 11, 10, 7, 10 strikeouts. Pretty much his worst strikeout game was 7 strikeouts against the Braves. Scherzer's going to get Ks. This Yankees team, they're dangerous, but they do K a lot. I think this is a good spot for Scherzer. At home in the National League, Washington Stadium, pretty pitcher-friendly, much better than Yankee Stadium. So I like Scherzer here as my SP1. Do like Chris Sale as well, but I think Scherzer might have more upside than Sale. Then SP2, SP2 is pretty gross on the slate. I'm rolling with Walker Buehler just because he gets a pretty decent matchup with the Marlins. This Marlins team, not a heavy strikeout team, but just not a good team overall. They don't hit the ball very well versus righties. They're just not a dangerous team, even though they don't have a ton of Ks. Just not a team I'm going to be afraid of. They have a low implied run total for today, 3.3 runs. This is a good spot for Walker Buehler. I think this is a spot where he can have some success. He's been solid this year. He made 4 starts with the Dodgers, has 17, 19, 31, 22 DraftKings points. He's definitely not going to pitch deep into games. We always know that with guys that pitch for Dave Roberts. You look at the pitch count, 89, 94, 93, 93 pitches. He's going to pitch anywhere from 85 to 95 pitches. Really want to exceed that amount. But that could honestly get the job done, especially on this slate where SP2 is just really gross besides Buehler. Chatwood versus the Braves, I don't really want to go to. Caleb Smith could probably be a play versus the Dodgers, honestly, but I feel like that might be risky, especially with the Dodgers getting healthy now, with Justin Turner coming back. I'm not sure how much upside Caleb Smith really has here. Garrett Richards against the Astros, no thanks. CC Sabathia might be a play against Washington, but honestly, not sure how much upside Sabathia has. Trevor Cahill against the Red Sox, no thanks. Brandon McCarthy hasn't looked good this year, and I don't like that matchup with the Cubs. So that's kind of why I'm rolling with Buehler as SP2. Obviously, that's a lot to pay for pitcher. We're going to need value bats, but I think there are value bats here. All 3 of my hitters are under 4K. The cheapest one being 3,100, the most expensive one just being 38. So some good value at hitter. First value hitter I like is at second base, Ben Zobrist. I do like here versus Brandon McCarthy. McCarthy has not been good this year. I think this is a good spot for the Cubs. I think this is probably the game we want the most exposure to when it comes to hitters. Both sides of this game, you can go to the Braves here, you can go to the Cubs as well. Like Zobrist, projected bat leadoff for the Cubs, 3,500. The Cubs do have one of the highest implied run totals on this 5-game slate, so I think they do make some sense. Zobrist obviously isn't a crazy upside play, but 3,500 leading off, we need value since we paid it for pitcher, and I think he definitely makes sense there. Next play, Anthony Rendon. Really like him here versus CC Sabathia. Although Sabathia is really good at limiting hard contact, really good at just inducing weak contact, I still like Rendon here. He's always been a guy that's hit lefties well. Sabathia will definitely give up some home runs. And I just really like the Rendon's 3,800 versus a lefty that I think could come down to earth. I don't think Sabathia is going to continue to be this pitcher that just continues to limit hard contact. The guy just doesn't really have a ton of great stuff, ton of great strikeout stuff. He throws a lot of balls in the zone. And when you're going up against a good lefty masher like Rendon, I think he's able to have some success here. And at 3,800, we need the value since we paid up for 2 pitchers. Rendon makes a lot of sense at third base if you're looking to go cheap. Could also consider Justin Turner for just 100 less versus Caleb Smith, but I do like Rendon here a little bit more, and I think he might have a little bit more upside. And then lastly, Kike Hernandez, a guy that's always hit lefties well. I like him here as a value play, 3,100. Should be in the lineup. He's in the projected lineup, projected back second tomorrow for the Dodgers. Versus a lefty, Caleb Smith, honestly a pitcher I don't think is very bad, but not a pitcher I really am scared to pick on either. Definitely can take some Dodgers here, especially the righties who are really, really cheap. We need the value, so Kike, Justin Turner, Kemp you could go to. Definitely some good value from this team. I think the Dodgers do make sense as a little cheap mini stack versus Caleb Smith if you're looking for some value at hitter. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for the main slate. 5 guys I like: Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Ben Zobrist, Anthony Rendon, and Kike Hernandez. Quickly going over stacks on this main slate. This game right here, Cubs and Braves, is a game I'm really loading up on from both sides. I think both sides are in play. And then the Dodgers getting some exposure to that team, especially with their price tags. Could be a way to go if you're wanting to pay up for pitcher. And then BVP plays on the main slate, just a couple here. Neil Walker only has 4 hits and 23 at-bats versus Max, but 3 of those 4 hits were home runs. Howie Kendrick is 10 for 24 versus CC Sabathia. Eduardo Nunez, 7 for 16 with 2 home runs versus Trevor Cahill. Freddie Freeman, 7 for 13 versus Tyler Chatwood. And Albert Pujols is 8 for 29 with 2 home runs versus Justin Verlander. Then pitchers that have done well, pretty much all the studs besides Chris Sale have done well in their matchups, at least with a 60 at-bat sample. Max Scherzer done really well against the Yankees. He's gotten 25 strikeouts through 70 at-bats versus that team. That's about over a 30% K rate. The Yankees are only hitting 157 versus Scherzer. Justin Verlander gotten 65 strikeouts through 196 at-bats. versus the Angels. The Angels are only hitting Verlander for a 128 average. And then lastly, Garrett Richards has done well against the Astros. They've only hit him for a 236 average to 127 at-bats. And then the pitcher that has done poorly on the main slate is Trevor Cahill. He has struggled against the Red Sox in the past. The Red Sox have hit him for a 270 average in 74 at-bats. They have 4 home runs in those 74 at-bats. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for PVB and BVP on the main slate, and I think that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you want me to continue doing these early and main slate breakdowns, just let me know down in the comments. Just leave a like. That lets me know that you want to continue to see more. I usually do always play the early slate, especially when it's a lot of games like tomorrow. Slate's going to be with 9 games. So I don't mind making videos on both slates. Just got to let me know down in the comments. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, just make sure you click the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so as well. And if you do have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And good luck tonight on both slates, guys. Peace.